What's up, everybody? I am back with a new comic book review of the year. Well, at least the first one of the year. And we're back in the whole New 52 situation. I think technically, would, no, because because I'm about to say, was, uh, my last Batman review was the first New 52. No, my first New 52 era DC in terms of my comic book review would be uh, with the Crime Syndicate, uh, uh, Forever Evil, and then Batman Eternal, and this will be number 3 in my New 52 era DC pull list. Now, me and many DC readers fully uh, admit that the New 52 era, by and large, has been trash because they're trying to truncate a lot of characters because it was too many to deal with, or to write for, and they just want to concentrate on certain core characters that make it easier. It was, it was something to that effect. It was really, really dumb. Now, I think fairly recently in DC Comics, which has been doing stellar stuff for the most part, and they pretty much, especially Justice League recently, have been doing an impressive job where it's kind of you know what? People remember Justice League, the animated series. Let's just do that. Which is duh. And it's been great so far. Whereas it's yeah, this is a world full of DC heroes, from, the occult stuff to cosmic stuff, street level, etc. They all, get involved. Nobody's better than the other. Well, there's the alpha and omega, some type of thing where it's kind of like a ranking system in a way, but they're all pretty much involved and they're deployed where they're suited best. It's yeah, and you pretty much have certain adventures, just like in the show. It's okay, this is a few issues, focus on Black Canary, Green Arrow, Supergirl, and John Stewart Green Arrow. And those are the focus. Then the next one would probably be Batman the Question, Red Tornado, or Firestorm, or something like that. It's it's yeah. It's just fun. It's yeah, that's what. Let's do that. It's just it's been great so far. Anyway, New 52. Now, this is a mini adventure centered around the Trinity of Sin. Now, this is kind of a reboot of certain characters, this different take on the Question, which I don't really care for. I don't think many people care for this version of the Question, because the Question that most of us will be more aware of is the Vic Sage adaptation, where he's just a normal guy with a mask that kind of give him a faceless visage and allow him to kind of take on the appearance of kind of like the chameleon in a way from Marvel Comics, where you can just take on the appearance of people and infiltrate and be a detective, because he's just as great a detective as Batman to a certain degree. And he works in Hub City, and he just, like a regular vigilante in a way. No special skills beyond what I just described. But here they want to give us some kind of mystical origin. If you don't know who the Trinity of Sin is, they're pretty much like the original like the great centers of world history in a way. Like you got the Phantom Stranger, uh, this version of the question, and Pandora. The Phantom Stranger, which I don't think they changed that bit of his history, because very early on, prior to like the Justice League animated series, he had a more of a era mystery to him. We didn't know at the time his backstory, but after a certain period, I think mainly because of this, I'm assuming. Don't know when the switch exactly was, because comics always switching up and doing altering stories or retcons. That was the word I'm looking for. They often retcon stuff that probably don't need to be retcon. Like with the whole question situation, it was dumb. Trust me, it's long been gone. Don't really need to worry about it anymore. But anyway, the Phantom Stranger, he is Judas Iscariot. If you know your Bible, you know that he was the one who betrayed Jesus for pieces of silver. They got Pandora, who, Greek history, you know that she's the one who opened up the box that released all the evils of the world, and it plunged into pretty much into chaos until like what's left was hope, and it kind of technically balanced everything. And of course, this version of the question, which he has some name like Narcissus, just Narcissus. And like I said, it doesn't really matter. They been retconned him back to Vic Sage. He's like a whole thing. Don't worry about it. But it's pretty much at that time he was like this mystery person who's just filled with sin of pride and all that stuff. And these three got taken to the Rock of Eternity, where the seven wizards, one of them which we'll know to be the one who give Black Adam and then Billy Batson the powers that we know of. And they charge these people of being like the worst sinners of mankind and done like, just pretty much like worst of the worst, essentially. So as punishment, the Phantom Stranger, it chooses to walk the earth, pretty much atoning for their sins, essentially. So they spent, their immortality essentially trying to do as much good as they possibly can, fighting, different types of supernatural evils, or sometimes normal people atrocities and stuff like that. And in regards to this question, Narcissus, his memory of himself was removed, so he's wandering the world questioning everything. So he's probably like the worst of the three, but since they kind of wiped his memory, he's always searching who he is and take on face of everybody else, but never knowing who he is as a person. Like I said, doesn't really matter. Whatever. Anyway, now we pretty much like, truncated like the backstory of these three. Each one, which they kind of have this their own little group, little mini group, their team, but it's not like an cool alliance at all. They do not. Well, I want to say, I think if push comes to shove, Phantom Stranger and Pandora wouldn't mind working with each other if the situation arises. But the question is pretty much like, F both of you. I don't care for any of you. Like, I barely care anything about myself. It's very uneasy alliance. They rather just kind of do their own thing. They got their own cross to bear, essentially. So they, on their own little adventures in different parts of the world, uh, the question, reminiscing on his history, what he could remember of it, and not knowing what his charges were, because like the Wizards of the Rock of Eternity kind of just wiped his memory. So now he's frustrated, and he's living like pretty much in Chicago, where I'm from, and lives under this kind of like almost like a flop house or whatever, with this kindly old black lady, and this demon attacks him, who turns out killed the lady, took up her visage to lull him to a false sense of security. So they ended up fighting. Then we see where I think Phantom Stranger was in New Orleans at the time, trying to put the spirit of this kid at rest, who was a long time ago, went missing and was assaulted, and a very long time ago. So his spirit was restless, and it was never found. His body was never found, and all this other stuff for many years. So he was trying to put that spirit at ease, so and then allow the spirit to go into heaven. Now his partner Terrence, who was pretty much this guy in the chair, essentially, in order to help facilitate their little mystery gang kind of deal, until this snake creature comes up, stab Terrence, darn near bisected him, and robbed him of his soul. So Phantom Stranger is, dealing with this creature. While in India, Pandora is dealing with this kind of water creature that's, hurting a bunch of people on the beach, and she's like trying to take this thing down. It's like a systematic attack on the Trinity. Not to be confused with DC's Trinity, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. Those are the typical Trinity that we are familiar with. That's why they kind of had to add Trinity of Sin just to differentiate. So the Trinity of Sin is, getting systematically attacked. Pandora pulls this spell where she kind of taps into the minds of the team, where they manage to overpower their foes, at least temporarily, and they end up transporting where Pandora is in India, which Question doesn't appreciate at all. So yeah, they managed to take down each one, which doesn't last long. It's pretty much like a reprieve. So now they wondering, okay, who not only has the gumption to come after them and knowing exactly where they are, and how to specifically like catch them by surprise. Like, okay, somebody has it out for us. We need to figure out who and why. Well, Question takes off back to Chicago to essentially bury the woman who he befriended. Phantom Stranger is upset at the fact that his friend, who is technically not dead, but he needs to make sure he find out who did this to him. Well, he's close to dying. Well, he assumes he's dead. I'm kind of jumping the gun a bit, but he's seeking revenge on a friend he thinks is dead. So Pandora and Phantom Stranger fly into orbit, where they come across this creature Navira or Namira, and who's the one who orchestrated the attacks. Navira or Namira's plan. I keep confusing this. Yeah, Namira. Namira wants to plunge the world into essentially darkness. Essentially, she's like the last of her kind, uh, uh, who pretty much like had they run of the world before, like I guess essentially the Big Bang and the light came and kind of banished her people away essentially. So she needs the Trinity ascend for a particular reason. So uh she starts to push like the darkness to envelop the world, or at least take them into some kind of pocket dimension in a way. It's very confusing because they send them this desert area, but then we start later see like the world starting to collapse into essentially darkness, and things reality gets kind of warped essentially. Pandora is trying her best to fight back, but since now everything's pretty much like slowly but surely covered in darkness, where Namira's power is, is overwhelming, beats both of them back. Then don't know why or how this happening, but the corpse of the woman that was basically the landlord question befriended, rose up from her grave and tells questions, go through the portal, answers that lie beyond, that sort of thing. And the way the Bible is decomposed, like how much time has passed? Because you had to get like a funeral. I don't want to say a funeral, but get the plot to bury her, and she looks like she's been rotting for like at least a month at the earliest. But it seems like it's been like, I don't know, 6 months. The way that I'm not a mortician, but the way that the body is looking, it kind of doesn't really track. We don't get a good timeline of how much time has passed. Also, who is puppeting? We never find out who's puppeting this corpse. What supernatural means is going on. But question goes through the portal and sees his kind of sort of comrades in trouble. He tries to come in using the Spear of Destiny, because each one of them has their own unique power set and set of weapons. Matter of fact, let's quickly go over it. This version of the question has clairvoyance, immortality, mind control, shape-shifting, sublimation, can transform his body into smoke-like substance and reform himself at will, teleportation and disguise, spear of inquisition, that is, forged from the fragment of the damaged spear of destiny, similarly magical lance which possess divine power that he can summon at will. By channeling the energy of the spear, the weapon's wielder may connect with a person's soul and mystically acquire information about them. The spear does not necessarily have to make contact with a target to do so. The question has also used the spear to manifest loud bursts of thunder. Okay, as far as Pandora, magic usage, immortality, self-sustenance, superhuman durability, stamina, healing, teleportation, force field, enhanced vision, hearing, eldritch blast, reincarnation, the voice. Pandora pretty much meditated and trained for 16 years to learn a sacred language that lets her briefly compel other beings. Telekinesis, flight, transformation, conduit of the lights, empathy, energy construct creation, abilities in archery, firearms, hand-to-hand combat, swordsmanship, weaponry, throwing knives. She has twin pistols that she infused with magic, throwing knives, like I said, and Kurisara Gama. Then, as far as the Phantom Stranger is concerned, divine empowerment, being cursed by the wizards to live forever. God made the stranger his eternal servant, resurrecting him with amazing abilities. Immortality, flight, magic, intelligibility, divination, astral projection, force field, chronokinesis, eldritch blast, suggestion, ectokinesis, possession, emotion manipulation, invisibility, teleportation, telepathy, size alteration, transformation, reality alteration, biofusion, pretty much merge his body into others, occultism, storytelling, disguise. His main weakness is non-direct interaction, even though, every once in a while he still interact with people. Maybe it's some kind of time limit of how much he can interact with people physically. And his equipment is silver necklace, made from the silver pieces that Judas got for portraying Jesus. It grows up each time the stranger recovers one of the original coins. So that's pretty much their kind of power set, so you can get like a good sense of what they can do. But since when Namira's world even questions, mighty weapon isn't enough to deal like a significant blow. It definitely wounded her temporarily, but they all end up getting captured. Turns out Namira needed these three mystical items in order to complete this ritual to envelop the earth in shadow, essentially. So the silver, the spear, and Pandora's box, which is pretty much like a skull, and which each of their blood, covering all of them, the ritual is complete, and everything's getting enveloped by shadow. And doesn't answer the question of what about the other heroes around the world, like what they're doing, especially someone like Batman and Superman. It's kind of weird. At least get some kind of insight, or at least a panel showing they're at least fighting off monsters or something. I don't know. They try to make their escape, but it's foolhardy. Namira gets inside their head. They're pretty much like, put down readily, despite their best efforts. They're not equipped to deal with someone with this level of power, because they're pretty much on her home field advantage. She cannot be killed at all. Nothing they do is leaving like permanent damage. So now it's been months, mind you. So it's kind of like, okay, what is going on? Was the planet was supposed to be filled with a lot of heroes, and nobody's doing anything. Where are they? So Pandora is, you know, toiling as a slave. Phantom Stranger is like pretty much like a handmaiden to Namira, and questions being tortured to death, or not to death. He's not going to die. He's just being tortured, and his mind's being messed with. But before they was captured, and mind, because Pandora's mind was, all their minds was pretty much tempered with, so they won't be able to fight back. Pandora pulls some slick stuff where she put off this tiny spell at the last minute, something so small that Namira wouldn't be able to pick it up and tamper with it, where eventually it will build up and grow, so that way she will get her memories back, so that way she can bring back the others too, which that's what happened. So they end up making their escape, but it's been months, and so they still have memories of what tribulations they've been through. So it's kind of like they really don't speak much to each other, especially Question, who probably got the worst of it all. Then they come across these primitive humans, which they confused. They thought, like, most of humanity's probably been wiped out, but turns out, the ritual wasn't really complete. It didn't really eradicate humanity. They kind of warped everything. Nimura, she kind of warped everything to make it seem like it was a complete hostile takeover. The Earth that they know is pretty much like covered. It's like under like a different layer that need to like break the spell, so they get everything back to normal, bring everything to the light, so they can finally take out Nomura, because she's weak against light. So thanks to the Spear of Inquisition and the Phantom Stranger, they realize there's a particular power source they need to get to, which, thanks to Pandora, who is kind of mind linking with it, kind of like a like a wayfinder or radar kind of thing, and she's leading them to. So they end up getting on the top of this mountain, where the source of what they need to probably put a stop to all this is behind this massive rock. But Nomura managed to find them thanks to the Question, who has been, because his mind got tampered with, he pretty much led her here, so that he seemingly betrayed them, which obviously the Phantom Stranger didn't take that didn't take that on the chin very well.
Phrasing?
So they end up knocking him out. But despite Stranger's reservations, Pandora expressed that they still need him because they're intrinsically tied together, whether they like it or not. In order to get what they need all three of themselves together. So they drag his unconscious body through, while Nomura's inner forces is kind of like trapped on the other side of the mountain while it's blocked. Just giving enough time to try to figure something out. So we see what Questions really went through. The fact that his mind got tampered with to the degree that they didn't realize. They probably thought it was just regular torture, but it was just like, no, it was they was messing with his mind at the same time. So they end up coming across this creature that turns out to be an angel, who's pretty much guarding this other box. Now there's like Pandora's box that had all the evils of the world, but then there's this like box of I think it's called Redemption, where it's pretty much the polar opposite of what Pandora opened up a long time ago, where the source of what the power that they need lies within, but they have to open it. But then Nomura's forces starts breaking through. Question comes to, and the others managed to get through to his head and realize we can put a stop to this. Will you trust us? So he, trusted. They trust each other, and so they begin questioning Stranger fight off these swarm of bug locust things that Nomura is sending to them, while Pandora is trying to open up this box. This woman cannot help but open up boxes she probably shouldn't be opening. It's like a story. Tell us all this time. Oh, Pandora, you never miss. But as they're linking with each other, they starting to understand each other better, especially Question, whose mind got so broken and twisted over the years, and dealing with obviously identity issues. They starting to understand him a little bit better, and he's not just an asshole for an asshole's sake. So we get to see Phantom Stranger utilize his biofusion powers, where he's combining, at least temporarily, combining both him and Question's capabilities to properly fend off these forces. But it didn't last long. As Nomura's coming through, Pandora managed to open up the box, which sucks the three in, and seemingly that's that. But Nomura figures if they can use the box and whatever power is inside for, it turns out, for her real master. But on the inside, we see that all the Trinity of Sin is being like strung up on ice or diamond or whatever jagged rocks, or whatever it is. My brain just went to ice, so whatever. And they're pretty much being crucified on this deserted area, where, in a gruesome kind of fashion, where these diamond or emerald like birds come swooping in, and like that Greek character whose like liver gets eaten by vultures or crows. I forgot what the name of that person was. No, I think that was one used to be a Greek god, but crap. The one that gave fire to mankind. I forgot. And Zeus had to punish him for that. Starts with a P. Crap, what is that name of that guy? Prometheus. Yeah. Yeah, it was it's Prometheus getting like attacked by uh uh the vultures or something like that. Yeah. It's like, I think it was like start with a P. So it's pretty much that. But on top of all that, those creatures from the sky, now as animals from the earth, like mainly like insects and reptiles coming from the ground, and devouring other bits of them. So they're pretty much being tortured essentially, and it's supposed to be some kind of box of redemption, but it seems like worse than what or at least from outside on in at first glance, it seems like this is not, why is this any different from like the box Pandora originally opened? The box was essentially was evil, I guess, or box of sin or whatever. But then Question manages to break free from his bonds. And here we go. The whole torture, kind of graphic. But Question manages to break free. Now, as much as he says he doesn't care for Stranger or Pandora, he knows that they went out of their way to help him. So he feels like he at least owes it to them to try to pull them down. But despite his efforts, he cannot make those things topple over so he can free them or anything like that. So he's trying to figure out a way, like see if there's any type of checkpoints or something in this vast desert that he can try to find something to help get them down. But then he gets accosted by these spirits of people who took his visits of over the years, all tormenting him essentially until the angel comes in and kind of put things in perspective for him. Yeah. Like what does he say? Like, is it who you are that matters, or is it how you live? The past and the future are illusions. Now is all there is. Now is how you define yourself. Now is how you redeem yourself, I guess. So, Question then realized why he managed to break free and the other didn't, because his unique capabilities caused him to kind of doubt everything. So he even doubt what's going on here, which kind of breaks the bonds. So he figures like, okay, I know how to bring them, get my friends down. But then he gets attacked because by these shadowy figures of his comrades, because the reason they were strung up and tortured the way they were because it's self-inflicted in a sense. Their own sins and their own personal issues and hang-ups that is still, because they blame themselves for the horrors that they wrought on the world, despite all the good they try to do since then. Those things still bother them, and that's why those things constantly try to torture them. But since Question constantly doubts everything and questions everything, he managed to break his bonds. So he uses his Spear of Inquisition to jab into his comrades so that way they can also start questioning, and it breaks their bonds. That's where they all three wake up. Now, Question's kind of injured because those shadowy images of his comrades were attacking him. So they end up waking up essentially in the Garden of Eden, where the angel is submerging Question in the waters of this river. It's pretty much healing him. And everything seems like in complete harmony. Like nothing is like, there's no issues. It's paradise. And the angel said, like, you guys can stay here if you want to, but they realize they have to go back because they can't leave the earth the way it is, because according to the angels, the earth still technically had, if it went its normal course, it still technically had like billions and billions of years left in it before it kind of like goes to kaput. But you could stay here. You don't have to go back. But he knows they're going to choose to go back because I guess he kind of psychically linked to them or know their spirits. Even Question, who, has, his own personal issues he's a little more harder than the others, but realized that there's still much work to be done. So uh, not only they're sent back, they sent back with a little boost in power. Since they managed to tap into the box of redemption, they temporarily are boosted by the best of mankind. While the original Pandora's box released all the evils of the world, this box, carries all the best of humanity. And again, kind of like boosted by that, which helps them fight back against Nomura and her forces. But they didn't show the cards right away. It turns out that when they came back, Nomura managed to get her queen to return, or at least, summon her queen back from like death, essentially. And they asked, the Trinity asked, like, wait a minute, I thought Nomura was the leader. And the queen was like, Nomura, why would they think that? And it ends up beating the heck out of Nomura for like misleading, thinking like, oh, you think you're a leader now? And of course, like, no. It's like they were mistaken. I was just, trying to, make sure everything is properly ready for your return and all this other stuff. But then, while everybody's distracted, the Trinity used their powers, fending off these shadowy forces. But like I said, it's only temporary. Soon they'll be tapped out. But they realize, okay, we know the world hasn't completely gone to hell in a handbasket. So we need to disperse this ritual that casting the world into darkness. But they come up with an idea, which is pretty much like a self-sacrifice kind of situation. Since they are the Trinity of Sin, they got to live up to that name, which then they decide, okay, since this ritual was caused by them, we need to reabsorb it. So they end up reabsorbing the sin of and the darkness. So the shadows disperse and they take on, all the woes of the world. Which turns out Nomura isn't part of these creatures. She thinks he is, but long time ago, she was just like a normal kind of like I don't know what she is, to be honest, like an angel, I guess, or something, where she was just corrupted and led to believe she was part of that ilk, but she was not. And she thought she was the last of her kind, and she made her mission try to bring them back. But they're all gone, and now she's back to normal. She hands the Phantom Stranger her sword, which he ends up using that, to put back the soul of his friend that he got into this fray for in the first place. And she just went off on her own merry way. And the Question knocks out his friends and ends up absorbing this, which they're supposed to be sharing between the three of them, but he ends up taking all of the sin that they absorbed and bringing it into him, which he cannot handle by himself. But then I like this little moment where the last panel just him just disappearing in a cloud of smoke that leaves a question mark. Like I said, it doesn't really ultimately matter because, the whole situation got rebooted anyway. But yeah. And most of this stuff's been narrated, at least parts of it's been narrated by each of the Trinity. But the last couple of issues been narrated by Terrence himself, who is detailing what Stranger told to him. after he was revived. Uh, and that was Trinity of Sin. I I mean, I see potential, but like I said, the retcon with the question was kind of lame. I like the Phantom Stranger, and I like the whole idea with Pandora being like a kind of like a mainstay of DC, uh, the DC universe's superheroes. Uh, but yeah, I'm personally not all that impressed with the story. Honestly, I like the art. Uh, uh, which I forgot what it was, who did the art, but uh, this was written by J.M. DeMatteis, and you know most of his writing I like well enough. Here it's just like I don't know, I don't know. It's like they could have made this mini just about them discovering about their at least try to, since it's been years since the whole Rocket Eternity. Now is the Wizard is typically, at least around this time, was just him, and the whole console is not a thing anymore. And of course, there's another story long after this where the Wizard apologized to these guys, or at least one of them, for their kind of they kind of jumped the gun with their judgment on these guys, not understanding the context or like the many layers of that led them to do what they done. But I don't know. It's just all. I mean, it could have been better. Like I see, like okay, Phantom Stranger is kind of like his journey of trying to set things right between him and maybe Jesus for like betraying him for some money, and Pandora is trying to like set things right for opening up the box and releasing all those evils in the first place, because you do dig deeper in the DC universe. Pandora, she was just a curious young child that didn't know any better and opened a box that she didn't mean to open. It's like she was a young kid, and I think that's what the Wizard apologized to specifically, Pandora, because she shouldn't have been passed judgment. Being like a young child at the time, she didn't know any better, and judging so harshly, they, like I said, jumped the gun on that. So it'll be a lot more interesting of a mini just to kind of get these three, at least at the time, kind of square things between them and humanity, because they weren't bad people, at least in the context of this in the DC universe. Phantom Stranger was just poor. He needed money, and like I don't know, he had his doubts about Jesus at the time. Whatever the case may be, you can make any kind of excuse in the terms of the world of the DC universe. But whatever. I think what they retconned the question to be was kind of lame and lazy, and obviously didn't go anywhere. And they quickly changed him back to be Vic Sage, and now we got Renee Montoya as the question, which in most cases I don't have an issue with, but I kind of wish they kind of really put some energy into Vic Sage. There's no reason why there can't be two questions, because I like Vic Sage as the question. I think like he's a lot more interesting than Renee Montoya, who's is all right. Anyway, that was Trinity of Sin. I'll be going back into Marvel. I really want to check out a particular character that I think would be kind of interesting to read up on, like a solo story about them, or him to be more specific. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about the New 52. What certain stories that you thought was okay, what was worse, and what was the best. And there will be other stuff that I'll be reviewing that was under the New 52 umbrella, like Court of Owls is something I really want to talk about at some point, which is regarded as one of the best New 52 stories that was produced. But anyway, I'll see you guys in a little while as I get back to playing some more games. Streaming more Billion Diamond and some more Marvel Rivals. Wrapping up my gameplay of Iron Man before I move on to learning some Hawkeye. Because in a few days from now, we'll be getting some. Well, like when the Marvel Rivals like releasing Fantastic Four. Because I think it's on the. Yeah, it's on the 10th. This is coming Friday. Because I think that I'm going to probably have to set Hawkeye aside for a little bit. I mean, learn him a little bit, but with the Fantastic Four coming out, I don't know. I'll figure something out because I'm gonna be too interested in trying to learn the Fantastic Four. Uh, but anyway, I will see you guys a little bit later. Take care and have a great evening. Peace.